Hi, I'm Tomáš Kriššák from Slovakia, and today I'm gonna tell you about my project Comic Book Kira, which was published in 2022. And the project itself is quite an interesting story because it started just as an idea that here in Slovakia, after the invasion or even before the invasion, we really had a problem with the prevalence of Russian propaganda that had been changing the way how people in Slovakia perceive what really happens in Ukraine and, for instance, who started the conflict and what really happened since 2014. And since I like to do storytelling and I like to make educational material, making a comic book about the war and turning this whole tragic, contemporary history into a story became my central idea for some time. And I wouldn't be able to succeed in this project if it weren't for hundreds of supporters of the project who I found through a crowdfunding campaign. So most of the funding that really helped to create these comic books in the first place came from the general public. So this story also shows that how the society itself can actually defend itself against state-controlled and spread propaganda, even though the state, in this case Slovakia, didn't really do much to defend the country against such propaganda efforts in that period of time. So after the successful campaign, we already worked on a comic book completion. I work closely with a very talented illustrator, Kamila Kuricová, and Mr. Grigory Mesežníkov was an advisor who was helping me to remain factual in every field of preparation of the comic book, which was also very important. But the hardest part, I would say, came once the comic book was ready and the campaign and the funding was also secure, because that really meant that we had to do the hard work and get the copies printed and then distributed. So this really gave me another life lesson that every dream becomes kind of a burden once it becomes part of the reality. So if you are ever planning something of that kind, also be ready to have a lot of planning ahead of yourself, and also maybe do a lot better accounting, because sometimes you might be surprised how expensive certain services can get. For instance, while you are distributing over 6,000 copies of comic book to generally almost every region in a country where we are working. So all in all, this pretty much shows that creating something that ends up being an achievement and ends up helping the country to defend against some, let's say, hybrid threats is in the end not only a work of an individual, but it's work of hundreds, work of communities. And every time you have a dream of this kind, just follow it. And eventually, with the help of others, you will make it come true.